Hello and welcome to Abnormal Presence Touring Talkies. I'm Kamla Iyer, and the brand Abnormal, which designs cholis, occasionally saris and personal accessories with a quirky, nautanki and a filmy take on Indian films, is my brainchild. I am a passionate sari wearer. I've been wearing it for many, many years. But over the last couple of years, I decided that not only should I wear saris, I should also probably learn a lot about the weaves and the weaving tapestry, rich weaving tapestry of India. And thus began my journey to start collecting weaves across India. And in this journey, I met a lot of friends who are experts in each and every weave of India, and that led me to have a lot of information about our weaves, which I thought I should share with the larger public because it might possibly benefit them. And that's how the series, The Touring Talkies, was born. I have aptly titled the series within Touring Talkies as Kanyakumari Se Kashmir Tak, a Sartorial Safar. So what I hope to do in the next couple of weeks and months is traverse through India, all the states of India, discover and learn and analyze these weaves and share information with you. And each week, I will have a guest expert. These guest experts are actually very dear friends who have, like me, learned a lot about weaves in their own journey. So, the first weave we are going to start off with is the Kanjivaram, because truly I believe Kanjivaram is the queen among weaves. And because the Kanjivaram itself has got so much of information and so much of depth of knowledge is there in that particular weave, I thought one particular episode may not be enough to cover or give it justice to that weave. So we have decided to do this over a couple of episodes. The first episode we are going to start this week, end on Friday, is Know Your Kanjivaram Butta by Butta. In this episode, we will be discussing the various classical, popular, rare motifs we see in Kanjivaram saris. Why am I starting this with Butta is a question I asked myself. It's because common people like you and me refer to saris using Butta names. So I would say I have a Vanasingaram sari, or I would say I have an Airam Butta sari. So that's the way we actually chronicle the saris in our mind. So I decided to start this with the Butta series, and today to demystify these Buttas in Kanjivaram saris, I have my dear friend Chitra Kailash. Chitra is an engineer and MBA by qualification and a sarista and a handloom evangelist by passion. She runs this brand called Chitra Looms. That's how I met Chitra about 3-4 years back, and we remained friends. And through this journey of the last 3-4 years, I've learned such a lot about the weaves of India from Chitra. I decided that I'll do Sri Ganesh of my series with a best friend and with the best weave that is Kanjivaram. So over to you, Chitra. Let's start demystifying the Buttas in Kanjivaram, shall we? Welcome.
Thank you, Kamala ma'am, for having me on this show. It's a wonderful opportunity for me to discuss about the most favorite weave of everyone and also the most favorite weave of mine, the Kanjivaram. And when we are speaking about this Butta by Butta, or what is called motifs, today we have around 136 recorded Buttas, documented Buttas in Kanjivaram. And now we have to see from where it started, from age back, how these saris came into our tradition, this buttas came into our tradition. Yes, when we know when there was a sari, yes, there was a butta too. A Rani, that is Rajaraja Solan's Rani, is calling weavers. Maybe the half can be a truth and half can be a mixture of a story. But that signifies us the weaving was there from the Rajaraja Solan's period. It has crossed a lot of leaps and boundaries, and what we see today is a modern innovation. In temples, when you see the sculptures, maybe in a Sri Rangam, when you see the Ranganadhar, lying down, you can see he is having a vastra. The vastra has motifs. The vastra has a border. So that was one, we know that the motifs existed and the weaving existed long back. Maybe it have lost in the middle of the centuries, but then when we were able to see the first documentation, we could very closely relate with the paintings of Raja Ravi Verma paintings. Like his periods was like 1846 to 1900s. All his paintings, the women paintings, which he depicted Kanjivaram saris, or the women of Tamil Nadu women wearing a Kanjivaram saris. The saris were all with motifs and were having this, grand borders, and the tissue borders were all being used in his pictures. So that signifies that in earlier days, maybe in the 19th century, the motifs were prominent. And when we were discussing with the weavers also, one of the oldest sample he showed, like 1900s, where his grandmother were weaving wearing a sari, which had a lot of coin buttas all over the sari. So with these documentation into our hands, and we these proofs into our hand, let's discuss how these motifs would have come into our sari thing. And before the motifs began, maybe the weavers were using patterns in the saris, like what I'm wearing, like checkered sari.
Yeah, it's a check. Yeah,
it's a checkered sari. So weavers, before the motifs, bigger motifs were there in the pictures, weavers have started experimenting the patterns like kattams, kasakasa kattam, Podi Kattam, Patani Kattam, Puliyangotte Kattam, Muttu Kattams, and these were all patterns that were weaved in the sari before the motif started. So let me explain one by one. When we were speaking about kattams, how do the weavers decide how, the length and breadth of the kattam, the size of the kattam? In a loom, suppose we take this as a loom. Suppose we take this as a loom. In the middle portion, there is an wooden block, which will have like a comb kind of a shape. That is the portion what we call as a reed. Through every there is a tip that is flowing from the reed, and from every one small tip of the portion, a thread is going to fall out, and the threads are taken to the weaving portion only through the reed. So the weavers takes a reed as a calculation. A kasakasa kattam is a reed, 2 by 2 kattams. So he take 2 threads from the reed, and he will weave 2 threads in the weft, and then the warp and weft combine the smallest of kattam. Why it is called kasakasa? It is like as small like a poppy seeds. That's why it's called as a kasakasa kattam. Then right. Coming to a kattam which I am wearing today.
Chitra, sorry, you said something like the warp and the weft. Can you explain what exactly is a warp and what exactly is a weft?
Warp is the length of the sari, the lengthier portion of the sari, and weft is the height of the sari. So now, with help of these reeds, they decide the length and the breadth of the kattams. Now the sari which I am wearing, this is like a patani, a small kattam, which is like 5 by 5 thread, and this kind of a kattam is called as a patani kattam. And now we can go into the bigger kattams, like here.
Yeah.
Which is like more of 10 threads in the warp and 10 threads in the weft. And this is they call as a Puliyangotte Kattam.
Oh, nice.
This they call it as a Puliyangotte Kattam.
Puliyangotte, I think, is a tamarind seed, right?
Yes, it's a tamarind seed. Yeah. So size of a tamarind seed is a...
Yeah, patani is like a pea, and this is a tamarind seed. So the names are also so beautifully evolved with everyday items, food items, right?
Yes. So they think that to visualize the kattams, they closely related with what we have in nature.
Correct.
And these is like a 3 by 3 color kattam. So if you see that the sari has a green color and also a red color kattam. So correct. It has a 3 color kattam. So all the sizes of the kattams are with respect to the reed. So for them, the calculation is only the reed. Now, when the size goes above 1 inch and above, then they call it as a palum padamum kattam.
Ah, okay. So 1 inch by 1 inch square is called
1 inch square kattam is called as a palum padamum kattam, which is a block of colors. And normally these, when it comes to cinema and kattams, always plays a close relation. So palum padamum is derived from the famous movie. Even though it was invented before, it was named after the famous movie where Saroja Devi wore one such sari in the movie.
It made it so popular for a lifetime, right?
And it made it so popular. So this is what we weavers, when they say, and the paimadi. So this is a paimadi kattam, which resembles like a mat. So these systems, these kind of customs were there and these patterns were there before the technique of motifs started. And now when we come into motifs and when we come into the earliest known technique for us is the box method. What they call the method is a box method. So what the weaver does is, suppose he has a loom, I mean, he sits in the loom and he wants to lift a certain portion in the thread. Maybe this is a kind of a wooden block he will use. He will lift certain portions in the warp wherever he want to form the motifs. He will form a basic motif, a square motif, or maybe a tilagam motif, or maybe a malli mokku. So I have a malli mokku sari here. You can see this doesn't require much of a technique. By inserting a wooden block, they are able to create wherever they want to lift the portions of the warp, they'll just insert a wooden block and they'll create one portion wherever they want to lift, and they will weave that with a zari or with a thread. And these are the basic geometrical motifs that they were able to create in the olden days. And for the borders, they had these babanchi borders. Babanchi is like a tissue kind of a border, this kind of a tissue kind of a border which they had. So these were the basic. Then they wanted to do bigger motifs, and they went into the next technologies. So by 1890s to 1920s, so that was the period when this Kambi method started. Kambi is the method where they tie the warp to a small wire. Wire is Kambi. So they tie it to the small wire. Wherever they wanted to create the patterns, those portions of the warp are taken and they are tied to a thin wire to the top of the loom. So when the weaver pulls that wire, that portion of the warp is lifted and then he creates a butta. So those buttas, whatever was formed, are Kamalam butta and Rudraksh buttas, and they made Kamalam, Rudraksh, Lavanga butta, and they made button butta. They made coin butta, which is called as Paisa butta in our Tamil traditions. So these are the simple motifs that they were able to create with the help of this Kambi technique. When we are discussing the borders, I will show each and every motif in detail so that we will understand what motifs are this called Kamalam and Lavangam and everything. And for the borders, because they had a technique to weave, we had Arimadam, we had, earlier we had this Babanchi, we had Arimadam, we had Mayil Kanna, we had Kuyil Kanna, diamond buttas. These were the buttas that were developed during that mid period of the Kambi technique. And you may ask, Chitra, why they had to tie a Kambi instead of tying a thread to the loom. So Kambi is tied in the fashion because whenever weaver is using his, when he's pedaling the, loom, the looms will lift, and when he's leaving, it has to come back. So it needs a weight to come back. So because it needs a weight, what they did is they used a wire, a iron kind of wire. So and then they realized to create a simpler buttas, they need a more, precise technique. And that's when we see from 1920 onwards, they had a better technique. The technique is called as an adai. Adai came because Kambi had some disadvantages, like you weren't able to control lot of threads in, Kambi. They moved on to the next technique, which is adai. Adai is when they tied the warps with the help of threads, nylon threads, and what they use create a weight. What if you see the bottom portion of a loom, they will have a small weights which is always flowing down. So that's how the adai technique was formed. Adai by itself means dense. So you're able to create denser portion of motifs. And after adai was formed, weavers were able to have lot of imaginations. Many more motifs came. Any motifs were possible. Like our motifs are always derived from nature and the temple sculptures. So motifs like Annapakshis, Hamsams, Yanai, elephants, Yari, all these motifs have evolved into our sari traditions only after this adai technique has started. Maybe in Kambi technique, they would have done one or two, but the precision for the motif has started only from the adai technique has been evolved. And after adai technique, the technique what we have today is a jacquard technique. And the jacquard technique, you can do anything and everything is possible today because it's almost, you have a graph with you and the graph is possible in the sari. nature is possible in the sari, anything is possible in the sari is because of the jacquard technique. In jacquard technique, the advantage is you have control of each and every thread in the loom. So you can lift any threads you want in any permutation and combinations to create the brilliant effect of the motifs and to create more precision and more details into the motifs. And that's what, from the technologies, computerized jacquard, where you can have a wide range of controls, bigger the butta, smaller the butta, any size of butta, any size of things, motives are possible with help of this computerized jacquard.
So basically, buttas evolved over a period of time, and as the technique evolved, the buttas became more and more complicated, more and more detailed, more and more beautiful, dare I say, because they were able to imagine the smallest detail on a butta, right?
And when these motifs are there, and in today's world, earlier, maybe when the Kambi method was there were now 2-3 different people who are working together. Weaver by himself would do a graph, and he would himself sequence it and make up a sari. But in these days, when it comes to motif, when it comes to the graph portion, we have a graphic designer for a sari. So in motif, we have to really give a greater regards to the designer, because the designer is the one who designs the look of the sari. Weaver will say what kind of border he wants, but he will decide the entire look of the sari. So the graph goes to the designer. He designs the border part, he designs the body part, he designs the pallu part. And then today's world, where we are using jacquard, these designs are translated into punch cards. And these punch cards, it's similar to the coding technique and the decoding technique, what we see in the computer. So this coding process has been done in punch cards. Then these punch cards are taken to the loom and they are feed into the jacquard systems. They are manually feeded. So many people think jacquard is a mission, but it's not a mission. It is assisting a weaver to do the motifs or do the sari better. So it is feed into the sari, and this punch cards is going to give the instruction to the loom or to the the weaver, the warp, which threads has to be lifted, and those threads are lifted, and the beautiful designs, whatever you see in my sari, your sari, is created with help of this method. And now we'll see separately what border is, what the body portion is, and how the pallu portion is designed, and what motifs plays into the design of these things. Now when we see a sari, it can be either a simple sari, it can have a simple motifs, and either the sari can be little grand, maybe the budget of 15 to 20,000 ka sari, where you have a reasonably sized border and some buttas in the body and some pallu portion, and then comes a heavier sari where you need to wear with a function, heavier things. Now when we'll take one section separate, that is the border portion. Now for a simpler border, we'll consider what are the we'll go with a bigger border. What are the motives that weaver take into consideration to weave that bigger border, and then we'll come size it down to the smaller borders.
So before I have heard a term called something to measure the border size. There is some term, no? What is it called?
Yeah. So to the measure, to a weaver, what we see is the borders. But for weaver, it is like 1 kunjam. This palm size, this portion is called as 1 kunjam. Okay. This is 1 kunjam and 2 kunjam. So this border, what I'm showing is typically 1.5 kunjam sari. Okay. So the size of your palm they take and they measure is called as a kunjam. Now I'm taking a denser portion of a weave, sari, a grand sari I could say, which has a denser portion in middle, and it has some supporting motifs in the bottom, and it has a purnam motion. To complete it, we have a motif in the top. Yeah. So now let's take the simple, the middle portion. So any sari you see in Kanjivaram has this denser portion, and this denser portion weaver uses vangi, or he uses this mayil kanna, or he uses this kuil kanna. So vangi, mayil kanna, kuil kanna, bavanchi, arai madam, and these are the motifs that is used to create an effect, denser effect for the middle portion of the sari, to create a denser effect. So what we see here for the denser effect is the vangi, and mayil kanna will look like this. This is the Mayil Kanna. You have a diamond shape and you have an opening in center. There is a dot in the center. This resembles the eye of the peacock, and therefore it is called as a Mayil Kanna.
Right.
And we have, to create this effect, we have this one. This is the Kuyil Kanna. Kuyil Kanna, this portion is called as the Vangi portion. So these motifs, and we have also Benares. Benares is a slanting lines that go, flow for the sari. So these designs are taken, these motifs are taken to create that denser effect in the sari for the middle portion. And for the bottom and the top portions, these portions, when you have a denser portion, you need a supporting motif to create that effect. And these this supporting motifs can be either Rudraksham. What we see here is a Tutripu. I have a Tutripu here to complete the effect. Here is a Tutripu. It can be Tutripu. It can be Rudraksha. Here in this sari, we have a Kamala Kadir. The center portion is a Kamala Kadir, and the supporting motif what we have is a Kadir Butta.
Kadir means,
it is like a Nel. Kadir means it is a Nel Kadir. When you have a paddy field, the first paddy crops that are growing up is called as a Kadir. So this is a Kadir Butta. This is also a supporting motif. Here weaver has used Vangi as the main portion, and it is a Kamalam and cross. Kamalam Butta, and this is a cross Butta. So Kamalam and cross he has used as a supporting motif. And this is also a supporting motif, which we see here is a Kamalam Butta. Kamalam in a cross. Kamalam Kattu, we call this as a Kamalam Kattu. This is also used as a supporting motif in the sari. Here we saw the main Butta as being this Kamalam and Rudraksham. Kamalam and Rudraksham being the main motif, and the supporting motifs here are the Kadir motifs being the supporting motifs in the sari. So and this is how weaver choose, like the motifs that we have for supporting is the Kamalam. We have the Lavangam. Lavangam looks like, this is a Lavangam motif. Kattu Lavangam. When a Lavangam or a Kamalam is within a square or within a box, we call it as a Kattu. So the Lavangam is in the Kattu. So this is a Kattu Lavangam. These motifs are used as a main motif if it is a smaller border. But when the border is denser, they tend to use it as a supporting motif. So Kamalam, Lavangam, Rudraksham, this Tutripu, and the Nelli portion, when they are all taken as the supporting motifs for the sari. And now, having this denser portion and the supporting portions at the top and the bottom, we need a fulfillment effect. For the fulfillment effect, we have a top portion. In any sari, you can see a top portion having a certain motifs like this. Here we have, this is a salanga, what we see in our payal, you see a salangai. So this is a salanga motif in the top portion of the sari. So the motifs that are used in the top portions are salangai, manga mokku, tilaga mokku, nelli manga. So to complete that, top portion, they create a visual effect which gives a detailing to the viewers of the sari. Here they have used a bogudi. This is also, mostly we could see this in many of the saris. A small triangle shape mokku.
At the right, at the top, the triangle,
the triangle portion, this is called as a bogudi. We also use arai bogudi. If this is only half this way, it is called as arai bogudi. We could see arai bogudi here. Triangle cut into a half, the arai bogudi. So these are the motifs that are taken to decorate the top portions of the sari. We also have some motifs like this called as Paneer Sombu, which resembles like a sombu, a pot, small pot, and this is called as Paneer Sombu, which is always used in the top portion of the sari. And in this sari, if we see, there is a small effect here, like, weaver has used a black color in the body and the maroon color in the border, and he has introduced a new color which is contrasting to both, like a yellow color, a mustard yellow in the middle. And this portion was formed by Kalakshetra, and this is called as Mopla. A sari which has two lines in between with a new introduction of a color to the body and the border, we call that as a mopla. A mopla is used for a visual effect to create a visual effect for the sari. Rukmani Devi Amma was a dancer. So when she was dancing, they need to create that brighter effect for the audience. So they always created a third introduction of a color by help of these muklas.
Okay, that's very interesting. And what is a selvedge, which we always hear?
Suppose I have a sari here, which is of a fuchsia orange, fuchsia colored sari in the body and the pink color in the border. And to create some, contrast effect for the sari, weaver has chosen a green color portion for the base of the sari.
Yeah.
At the end of the sari, maybe for just 5-6 reeds, he has used a different color. This portion is always called as a selvedge.
Okay, so it's like extra threads in the warp or something.
Extra threads in the warp to just create that contrast for the sari, contrast effect of the sari.
So tell me, this technique of weaving motifs in the border, that has got some name as well, right? Is it adai or is it it's called something else, correct?
No, when we do the pallu portion, the technique used in the pallu portion is called as the nadai. But when we use it in the border, we call the technique, similar technique is used, but the technique is called as a jung.
Oh, okay.
Jung is a technique that is used to create the effects in the border. And later after jung, we have this dobby technique. And the dobby technique now it is all after jacquard, everything has been possibly done only with help of jacquard. There is a separate jacquard box for the body and the pallu, and separate jacquard box for the borders.
So that is, then there is a process of connecting the border to the body of the sari, and that creates a pattern, right? Can you tell us something about that?
Body and the border, even this portion, we call it as a motif. Certain saris, many of a Kanchipuram saris has this interconnection effect for the body and the border. And here what we see is a tarambu mukku. Yeah. And tarambu is also considered as a motif because this is a pattern created by the weaver for creating that fulfill effect. So this tarambu is also considered as a motif. And this korvai is created with help of a Pullayar mukku. It looks like if you take a turmeric and catch up a Pullayar with that, it looks like a small triangle shape, and therefore it is named as Pullayar mukku.
Nice. Okay. So basically, whether it's Tarambu Reku or this Pullayar mukku, it is a process of using korvai to join the body to the border of the sari.
Body portion and the border portions. Right. Usually it can be even, this is also a korvai sari, but can be joined without any effect, without any motifs. But when they choose to have a motif, then the motifs are named as, if it is like a temple shape, we call it as tarambu. And when it is like a mukku, we call it as a Pullayar mukku.
Okay, so that is.
And even in the borders, there are so many other, motives that the weaver can choose to play with. After this, basically when they started up, they had this Arai Madam. Arai Madam, let me show you an example.
Yeah, Arai Madam will be good to see.
This is an Arai Madam sari. Arai Madam motif.
That is the center portion, yes. Which your
this portion is an Arai Madam. Arai Madam, the names is like when you enter into the house or into a temple, you see a small madam kind of a structure, triangle structure where they keep the lighted lamps. So they took an inspiration from that and it is woven, and that way it's called as an Arai Madam, pattern.
Arai Madam in my party's 9 yards, Purapadavai.
Yeah, or normally when we weave 9 yards, this Arai Madam and Babanchis are very famous.
Common borders, aren't they? Okay.
Common borders.
Mail Kannu and Kuil Kannu, the difference is Mail Kannu has a dot and Kuil Kannu doesn't have a dot inside the dot.
Doesn't have any dots, yeah. And even weavers took inspiration from the watch strap. And one such motive through the watch strap is like, this is a watch strap motive.
Oh, nice. Is this what they call the Bentex strap or something like that, right?
Yes, they call that as a Bentex strap.
Very nice. Such a
and in the sari, if you can see, they had used supporting motifs when we spoke. If this is considered as a main motive, these two are the main motive of the sari. You could see they have used this, supporting motive here is a Nelly.
Yeah.
And they have used a key. Key is savi. When you insert a key.
Yes, correct. Yes.
This is the portion. So this is a savi motive that they have used.
So there is a peacock And then there
is a peacock also in the sari, because it is whenever any motive comes into a square portion, then we call it as a cut peacock. Peacock within a square.
Yes.
Cut peacock.
Okay. And there is something which looks like a veldari, right? So that is, there is a veldari kind of motive also in that, right?
Which we call, and when it is coming into the supportive motive, we call it as a Nelly. But when it goes to the body, then into the entire sari, then we call that sari as a veldari sari.
Veldari is basically like a wave. If you can show that sari.
Wave where you, when you have up and down dots.
Okay.
This is a Nelly pattern which has gone from the supporting motive to the as a main motive of the sari. Then this sari with this Nelly up and down dots is called as a veldari.
So we have finished.
And they also any motives that the weaver took or inspired, something it means a lot. There is a lot of significance with respect to the nature. For example, when they took Rudraksham is always taken as a sign of protection. So whenever a farmer goes to the field for the planting his crops, he carries a Rudraksham as a sign of protection, so that there is no snake or no any poisonous venomous insects doesn't harm him. So always this Rudraksham is seen in natural thing also as a protection, and we go into temple also, it is seen as a symbol of protection. And many of our Kanjipuram saris, the motifs that they have taken and they have used are in the sculptures. For example, a Kodi Visiri, when you see a pillar kind of a portion, a pillar kind of a thing in any of the temple, at the top portion to decorate that pillar, we have a Kodi Visiri there. So the Kodi Visiri is also taken as a motive and used in the sari, in the borders of the sari, maybe to decorate the pallus. So that's how, each and everything, whatever we are seeing, are being taken and being used into the sari.
Basically, it's, either the flora and fauna, or it is something to do with their everyday life, like a temple.
Everyday life. So because vegetation is like everyday life, they normally used Goduma, Nil Muttu, this kind of tulir, the tulir butta which we saw with the Nel tulir. Tulir buttas all were with the vegetation, because cropping was an important part in our culture. And then some motives came from the temples, and there are some motives that came from the women itself, because women are the one who are going to adorn the saris. Example, the way we keep the pottu, tilagam pottu, the motive came from that. Tilagam is called as a tilagam motive, and from women used to keep a jewel in the when they have the pleats in the hair, they keep a jewel which is called as jadanagam. So the motive is, which resembles the jadanagam is called as a jadanagam. So there are a lot of motives are taken from the women itself, or the ornaments which the women are using, like a kamalam, like this kind of a tod which we use in the earlier days, is called as a kamalam tod. So the butta is also derived from that. Kamalam means lotus. This symbolizes also lotus. The butta symbolizes a lotus.
So now we will, we've discussed the border in detail. So should we go to the body of the sari then?
Yes, we'll go to the body of the sari. So body of the sari, the weaver either choose the body to be very simple, so he has borders and left the body very simple, or either he choose the motives. The motives can be like all the supporting motives that we were using in our sari, in the borders, are taken into the body also. For example, what we saw now, this one is a veldari sari. The Nelly portion is taken into the body, and when it is woven into the entire sari, we call it as a veldari sari. And the tutripu, this is a tutripu portion. This is also used as a supporting motive in our borders. And then if it is taken into the entire portion of the sari, we call it as a tutripu sari. Then there are buttas, Ayiram buttas, like one, this is like brilliantly woven like Ayiram buttas with annam and paisa. Annam and a paisa coin butta.
So, earlier, in the earlier technique, I think when you said Kambi technique, you got these Ayiram buttas in, coming in. So when the technique changed from Kambi to Ade to Jacquard, did the design of the Ayiram butta also change from a simple one to a more complicated?
Yes. Yes, because if you remember the pictures I shared with you, the weaver's older mother pictures, which had Ayra Butta in the sari, which was used by the Kambi method, had only coins. If you could see, it had a checkered pattern, but the buttas were only coins in the sari.
Yeah.
Or earlier, the buttas were like this Vishwakarma sari. This is a cotton version of a Vishwakarma. So this is a Kamalam Butta.
Yeah.
So 1,000 kamalams woven across the sari. So these were the basic saris that we had with the Kambi technique. But with the invention of Adait technique, when more patterns were possible, so the weaver started introducing a new effect. Maybe if there was only coin, we introduced a new one called as a peacock. And now if you say, Chitra, I want, different buttas and all the Ayram kattams, then that is also possible with today's technique. If you ask if it was not possible in Adai, I could say, I can't say it was not possible, but it was more laborious.
Yes.
But in today's thing, it has become even more easy for us to create any patterns we need.
Right.
So the technique has made us help us to evolve with the motives and evolve with with the patterns we create.
1,000 Butta is one. Then there is also something like a lakh Buttas, right?
Lakshadweepam. When we have a lakh kind of a buttas, the buttas, if you see, will be like a button kind of a shape all over the body. And then that kind of a butta is called as, either it can be a button, or either it can be a tutripu, or either it can be just one small drop, one small weave. And that kind of a pattern all over the sari is called as a Lakshadweepam sari. Okay. And if the weaver uses a mayil and chakram in the body, like, if this is a mayil, maybe it's a paisa. If he uses a chakram, then it can be a mayil chakram sari. And even I have this is a 1,000 butta with annam and chakrams.
Wow.
And the border he has used for this one, this is a Banaras, supporting Banaras that we used to close the design. And this he had taken to, maintain the checks in the sari.
So while on the checks, so this is a Banaras motif used for the checks. When that becomes like a pearl, it's called Muttukattam or something.
This pearl, like if it becomes like a pearl, this this is a pearl thing. And if this is the pattern of the sari, then we call it as a Muttukattam.
Muttukattam sari. So even in so Muttukattam, sometimes the Ayram Butta border becomes a Muttukattam, right?
Can also Ayram Butta border becomes a Muttukattam. And now if you see here, it is just a tissue which is woven, and this we call it as a Punai Kattam.
Okay, so this is a Punai Kattam. All right.
Punai Kattam, that is, it doesn't have any pattern. It's just a tissue kind of a silk zari which is going across. It is called as a Punai Kattam.
So then, is this Muttukattam and Muttuseeru the same thing?
Muttukattam, when it is crossed together, we call it as a kattam. But if it is just one line, maybe like what you see in a simpler palla, just one line which is decorating, then it is called as a Muttuseeru.
Okay, got it.
Seeru means a lion. So Muttu, the pearls are in a lion, so we call it as a Muttuseeru.
Got it. So somewhere in the body, will you also be showing us a Vaira Usi sari? Because that is one of the most traditional. Every house.
Yes, this is the. When we have to discuss the oldest pattern, we should have also discussed about this Vaira Usi, because Vaira Usi is.
So why is it called a Vaira Usi? What is a Vaira Usi? It is a zari line with a thread line or something like that, correct?
Yeah, when a weaver puts up a warp, alternatingly, maybe for here if you see, alternatingly he has used a silk warp and then a zari warp. Silk warp and one zari warp. Silk warp and one zari warp. And then when he's weaving, when he's introducing the weft, the patterns are in such a way that it creates a shining effect. When you see, it creates a shining effect. And so this is one of the earliest pattern which we have. And Vaira Usi is, almost close with, when we are a collector of a Kanchipuram sari, Vaira Usi is one main part of the collective we have.
Vaira Usi literally means diamond needle.
Diamond needle.
So does it have any significance as to why a Vaira Usi is typically in a wedding trousseau of every girl in Tamil Nadu?
because Bairam is like, the mother tells a daughter that in any conditions, like you go in, you see a Bairam is not taken very easily. It goes into so much of, it's mainly a dark coal, and then it goes into so many polishing and cutting and everything. Only after that you are able to see that crystal clear diamond. And that's what the mother signifies a daughter, that you go into all any of the troubles, any of the things, happiness, sadness, whatever together, that have to polish you into a shining beauty to this world. So that's what Vairavasi signifies, and that's why Vairavasi is always into the part of wedding trousseau.
How interesting that is, yes.
And the most important body part of the sari is a Vanasingaram, like we see here, the forest beauty. So the mixture of all animals, elephant, you can see a peacock, you can see a horse. So
Can you bring
it
it
can be
closer
even
to
a
the camera? It's to be, yeah, now it's clear. Yes, so there's elephants, you can see peacocks, you can see a lot of creepers.
elephants, peacock, you can see a horse here, you can see a tiger here.
Right.
So, and with the help of the plants and forest. So this is one of the most beautiful concept created by the weaver, telling our man system, forest, coexist with the forest and live with the forest and enjoy the harmony of the animals and everything. Live with the ecosystem is basic motto of the sari. And body is also, any motives can be taken and can be appreciated with different things, like you can create a Vanasingaram in a Mubbagam effect also. You can create a Vanasingaram all over the sari, any motive for that matter concern. We have so many permutations and combinations for one particular pattern to be weaved in a sari. Suppose an Ayra Butta can be all over the sari, or it can be with, say maybe for my example of my sari, it's all over the sari. It's like Ayra Butta all over the sari. Suppose this sari can also be created with a Mubbagam effect.
So a Mubbagam is basically 3 equal parts, right? You're dividing
it's a 3
equal parts.
Yes, it's a 3 equal parts of the sari. Here it is one, lower portion is one color, middle portion is one color, and the bottom portion is one color. So any motive can be taken, or any patterns can be taken to decorate the center portion and the bottom and the lower half of the portion.
So basically this kind of a sari is Mubbagam because it is 3 parts.
3 parts, 3 equal parts.
Equal parts, that's important. And because the top and the bottom border are different colors, it's also called a Ganga Jamuna Mubbagam.
Yes, it's a Ganga Jamuna Mubbagam. A Mubbagam has to be 3 different, it can be, the borders can be of the same color, or it can be 3 different colors.
Correct. And the center portion in here, they have done an Ayram Butta concept.
Ayram Butta. Any buttas, any patterns, whatever we can create, is always create either all over the sari or in the Mubbagam fashion or in an Arai Bagam fashion.
So Mubbagam is 3 equal parts. Arai Bagam is 2 equal parts. So you just have a top part.
Arai Bagam is 2 equal, top and the bottom portion. Sometimes they leave the top portion, and you could have seen many motifs only in the lower half of the motion. Or they can alternate between the bottom portion and the top portion. So anything is possible with the help of these combinations of the sari.
Okay, so that kind of covers everything you want to cover in a body, right?
A body portion, yeah.
We then move
and now we come to the important part of the beauty of the Kanchipuram is the pallu of the sari. So pallu can be, if it's a simple sari, it will be a very simple pallu. Like I'll show you one example here. It's a very simple pallu sari, which only has, as you said, Muttasira. Muttasira is like a pearl-shaped lines that is flowing towards the sari. So it has a Muttasira and a small rake. This is a Seepa rake here.
Seep is comb, no?
It's resemble a comb shape, so it is called as a Seepa rake. And there are instances which it resembles like a Pillayar mukka. It is called as a Pillayar rake.
Okay.
Which is normally you see in the center portion of a sari. In the pallu, the center portions be the Seepa rake or the Pillayar rake. Okay. Suppose if we are going to create a brilliantly beautiful pallu with a more denser pallu, then we will be taking like sari a denser pallu like this.
Hmm.
So which will always have like a border, it will always have a center portion and
Yeah.
the supporting portions at the top and the bottom part.
Right.
So the center portions, in this weaver has made, you can see closely, I'm bringing it to the camera.
Banaras,
You
right?
can see it is a cross lines of Banaras design.
Yeah.
So it can be Banaras design. Here they can even make whatever center border has they made. The vangi can be put up here. Mail kannu can be put up here. Denser, to create a denser effect. Mail kannu, kuil kannu, or diamond buttas all over the things. And button buttas all over the place. Seep rake, or it can be this playa rake. So the denser portion will be of a denser, a denser weave that the main weaves will be put up into the center portion.
Right. So the denser portion is one design like one of these Banaras or Pavanji or Arai Madam or something. Then like
Arai Madam will.
Then like the body, you have a supporting and a Purna motive as well.
Purna motives also for the pallu portions.
Right.
Here animals, after the adai and chakad has come into portions, we have taken many of the animals that we see in the temple sculptures, like yadi. Yadi is the combination of 5 animals together. So yadi is taken into pictures. Irutale pakshi is taken into your pallu. Deer buttas are taken into the pallu. These buttas are even in the sari, in the butta, as a butta in the sari, main butta in the sari, or can be even used as the main then fishes, all these motifs they started using in the pallu and also for the as a main portion of the butta.
Okay.
Now we are seeing here is a yane, and yane, if you notice yane in your Kanjipuram.
Can you show us the yane clearly? Yane is actually the elephant, yes.
Yeah. Elephant. In many of the sari, any sari you take a yane as a motif, yane would always carry a kodi, a small leaf. In any Kanchipuram sari you can see a small leaf that the yane carries, because weavers never wanted to depict the forest animal, like which we don't worship, like elephant in the forest is more fearful than that is in the temple. So it always you tone them down to one level by carrying some yarn, leaf or a flower with the yane, or yane is within encircled within a round butta. So you can always see a yane either carrying some flowers or leaves together, or it will be encircled in a round butta. So this yane we call it as a kodi yane.
Is there a combination that is accepted or unaccepted? Like, a yane can't come with a like a lion. Is there some?
When you ask a weaver, they never, maybe designers these days design any kind of sari, but when you ask a weaver, they never weave a yadi separately in a sari, because yadi is seen as a fearful animal. It is seen as a most powerful thing, and normally women are the one who are wearing the sari, so they don't want to give that aura of being the most powerful by creating a yadi, mostly yadi in the sari. So yadi is always combined with, like how the yane has a kodi, yadi will be within some maybe with a hamsam, maybe in the top and bottom you can see a hamsam, or they would create one forest kind of thing, or small good flowers and flora and fauna with a yadi. So that's how they create the motifs for the yadi. Yadi is never woven in olden days separately. And now if you see the top portion is a hamsam.
Yes.
Hamsam. So like this here, in these 2 portions, you could have seen yadis, you could have seen deer butta, or you could have seen man butta, you could have seen, peacocks. So all these permutations and combinations are possible, and weavers, chose many of these motifs from our temple sculptures. And again here, when we create this effect, like how the border had a supporting motif, all these bigger portions also had a supporting motif like this. Like in this sari, we are seeing a Rudraksh taken as a supporting motif for the peacock, and Rudraksh taken as a supporting motif for the Kodi Yane also. And to complete the pallu, we always have the purnam, like how we had a purnam look for the border, we also have a purnam look for the pallu portion. And the motif we see here is a kadir mukh.
Okay. Crop again.
Yeah, it's like a crop, paddy crop. It's called a kadir mukku. So it can be kadir mukku, it can be a manga mukku, it can be a like this lavanga mukku. Here what we used is a lavanga mukku, so it can be a lavanga mukku. So these are the motifs that are taken to complete the effect and look of the sari. And all these motifs that the our weavers are using in the sari also has an historical importance and also means a prosperity and protection for the women who is wearing it.
Okay, and you said the motifs are created in the pallu or talap, as they say in Tamil, using the adai or the jacquard technique, right?
Jacquard technique, yes.
Okay, so and therefore again more complicated, more detailed motifs are now possible because of these new these techniques that are available for.
And even in the motifs, when they are weaving nowadays, they are able to even create a zari with a lot of threads, a meenakari effect, which we see in Benares saris. Those effects are also possible in our Kanjivaram saris. And like similarly, when we talk about this Benares, inspiration which we are taking out, the important Benares inspiration which was taken during this Kalakshetra time. So Kalakshetra, we can never forget, we can never separate Kanjivarams and Kalakshetra, because Kalakshetra are the ones who documented all the saris, who documented all the motifs, and who trained the weavers to weave all the, the different kinds of motifs and to take inspirations. So, and likewise, when they, did this inspiration things, the main inspiration what they took from the northern part of the weaving community is a konya pattern. Whenever you see a corner motif in the pallu, it is called, I don't have a corner motif, butta now, but in the corner, after the pallu ends, we have a corner motif in the corners of the sari. After the pallu ends, we have a corner butta here, which is called as a konya in Benares, and in our culture, we call that as a corner butta. Corner butta can be either of a paisley, or can be either of a yane, or can be either of any butta. Even in Iditale Pakshi can be taken and put it as a corner butta. We are slowly getting inspired from many weaves of the nature, many weaves in India. Like we have taken many of Orissa motifs, even the fish motifs with the Rudraksh, which you see in many of Orissa saris, are taken as inspiration and have been used in our borders of the sari. So as we say, like we are progressing in technology, we are also progressing in the way the motifs are being done. But these are the most popular motifs that is used in a traditional, what we call as a traditional Kanjivaram sari.
Okay, you at the start said that about 130 or 140 odd documented weaves are there. So maybe after this session we record, we should probably share some of the
the images. Yeah,
because the whole idea of the session, Chitra, really is for people to start appreciating their weaves better and being able to identify the weaves. In fact, just talking to you, I'm so excited because I can, beyond the usual Annam and the Rudraksham and the Hamsam and the elephant, the real animals and flowers we are able to recognize, but some of these shapes I would never have known otherwise, or things like the way you describe it as a dense portion, a supporting portion, and a Purnam portion, I'd never have known. So that's the beauty of a session like this, because it allows you to start thinking and looking at your sari.
Yes.
I think that's really absolutely clear. So we have covered, looks like the buttas in the sari between the border, the body, and the pallu, right? In today's session, and we will share the more detailed buttas,
detailed things in the thing, yeah,
for a picture.
And Kamala ma'am, and after the session is coming to an end, I wanted to ask you an important thing, because in Kanjivarams and when women wear sari, a sari is never complete without a blouse. So
Yes.
Any pattern of the sari, anything in a sari goes compliment only if you wear a nice blouse and present it well. So can you give me some ideas like how we can take a normal sari or a grand sari to a official function or to a grand function or to a simple function in home, like I'm going to somebody's poonal or Kadakuttal, Aisha Homam, and what would be your blouse suggestions for the saris that and maybe I have an old Kanjivaram sari of my mother. and
Right.
how can we pair it?
It's a good question. Actually, one of the reasons I started designing blouses is because of my passion for saris, because both of them are so complementary and one is incomplete without the other. So if I were to just show you some examples, and some of them are actually been inspired by the Kanjivaram motifs because of my love for Kanjivaram. So if I were to say, how would I go for a grand function? I'd take a grand sari and probably wear one of these grand blouses. So this one, for example,
Wow.
has got the
Wow.
Iritalai Pakshi. This is your Iritalai Pakshi, right? Which you're talking about. Or
Yes, this is our Irutale Pakshi.
I'd pair it with something like this to make the sari really grand. Typically, every sari comes with a blouse of its own. So that is an option always. But nowadays, everybody is doing mix and match, right? That is the real beauty.
Yeah.
So this is another grand one. So this is what we call in Tamil a kuttu vilakku, which is basically a deepam or a lamp. And in the sleeves, I have, for example, added Annapakshi. So it's completely, inspired by Kanjivaram, if you like. These are some of the examples I've used when I would make the sari grand. There's another motif, again, which is a grand one. This is what you typically see in a paithani.
Yes, it's in a Paithani parrot butta. Yeah.
I've been inspired by the Paithani and I've created a pattern like this. So anything is like you talk about the jacquard technique and all of that. Like anything is possible in a motif to be inspired. If I were to go for a simple function like a Simandam or Godbarai or a thread ceremony, I'd probably pair it with something like this. You know, the same
Wow,
sari.
this is a beautiful sari. Yeah.
Hand painted can be paired. It makes your sari look grand. At the same time, you don't look like the bride, right? So I am, for example, today wearing this blouse, which is this.
Wow.
It's a simple blouse. I can kind of wear it for any occasion like this. I'm not going for a wedding. It's a simple function. So I'm kind of doing this. Suppose you want to wear a Kanjivaram to a party, right?
Yeah, party. Okay.
Let's say. So
Yeah, wow.
I just do, it's a funky blouse. I'd probably just do a funky blouse for a party. So
maybe a checkered sari with the blouse will be absolutely, fantastic.
If it's a winter party,
wow.
You want to wear something which is, so these are all handwork, right? So a handwork or a handloom never goes out of fashion. For an office function, I would do something like this for an office function, right? It's got a little bit of button details. It's got pocket here.
Pockets.
It makes it a little more official, if you like, and it's not very grand.
So dressy and grand.
Something like this, for example, can be worn any day, every day to office. So things like this is what I would do to kind of dial up or dial down a sari. Suppose you're going for a puja, it's Durga Puja. I do something like this.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So the basic concept is the sari is the same. You cannot have as many Kanjivarams as you want because they are expensive saris, right?
But the looks can be,
Yeah, but you want to feel like you have so many saris. So you can change the look by wearing a blouse. Like you are wearing a beautiful Khan blouse. Now, Khan as a fabric is actually very beautiful because like the Kanjivaram, the Khan gives you the two-tone effect, right? So it matches a lot with a lot of Kanjivaram, but who would have thought of this a couple of years back, right? To match a Kanjivaram patte with a Khan.
I had almost matched with many of the saris. Maybe now today I'm wearing with the Kanjivarams. I had earlier paired it up with a simple, even a cotton sari. So it goes, with help of my mood, I change, taking the sari.
Correct. So you can mix and match and, I think you can dial up or dial down a sari depending on the situation with a blouse very beautifully, and mix and match allows you that. So I must thank you, Chitra, because
thank you for this opportunity, ma'am.
Entirely my pleasure. We have learned today that the buttas play such an important role in a sari, and we have learned how the technique has helped the butta evolve over a period of time. And today, virtually anything is possible with the techniques available at our disposal. And we have tried as much as possible to cover as many buttas as possible by example. Now, we will share, like I said, the pictures of various buttas that, the viewers have very kindly shared with us to, to enlighten you. During the course of your discussion, Chitra, you said a lot of techniques. You threw a lot of terms like Adai, Jacquard, Korvai, then Dobby, Jung, whatever else. I mean, so many different words that we heard, which tells me that there is a lot to learn in a
More,
Kanchipuram.
yeah,
And there's a
Kanchipuram.
lot to cover. So I guess we'll probably link back for future episodes to see and learn these things better. And, we will come back to the viewers with more episodes. And so do tune in to the Facebook and Instagram page of Abnormal so that you know when our next sessions are, what they're going to be on. Definitely you will hear a lot more from Kanchipuram on us, and lot more and lot of weaves across India from us. Thank you very much, Chitra, for such an enlightening session and your time.
Thank you.